Well, my name is Dennis Tomlin, and my role is the Chief Information Security Officer for Multnomah County. And most of you probably know where Multnomah County is located. We're right on the border with Washington, the largest county in the state of Oregon. Um, it's with mixed feelings that I do this because I am a beaver, but we're here for a good cause, right? So I'll, I'll leave my editorial comments to myself here. But very often we hear, I'm from the government, I'm here to help you. And, what do we think when we typically hear that? Well, today, and in this case, I will tell you that there is help available for us in the cyber world. And I'll talk a little bit about my personal experience. We leveraged, I'm going to be introducing Chas Jones, who is a protective security advisor for CISA as a part of DHS. And at the county, we have used and in some cases perhaps even abused CISA with the services that they offer, because the services are of an extreme high quality and they are available at no cost, which is always a bonus when you're in local government. But that said, the services that they offer the catalog is wide and broad. And I'd actually asked Teresa to send me a copy of the catalog before this meeting, Chas, but it was too big and it wouldn't go through my limits on my email system. But we recently just concluded a tabletop exercise with Dana at CISA. And I'll tell you, we invited our executives and division leaders, and it was eye-opening for everyone. It was a high quality exercise, many months of preparation. But Chas will be going into some of the details on the services that they offer. But you need to know a little bit about this guy. He's, I think I want to be Chas when I grow up. He's had a great career. He's had a lot of experience. So he's responsible for identification of critical infrastructure and man-made threats. Before coming to CISA, he served for 4 years in the Department of Defense as a technical expert on critical infrastructure. In that capacity, he joined the chief of staff at NASA. So he is a rocket scientist, maybe, or he played one at NASA. He led a DoD mission of mission assurance teams on over 50 installation level assessments and numerous small assessments around the world, analyzing critical missions and assessing reliance on infrastructure such as electric power, petrol, telecommunications, clean water, and transport. In addition, Chas deployed with the Joint Program Office, Mine Resistant Ambush Protected, to Afghanistan for 6 months. Thank you for your service, Chas. Very much appreciated. He served 22 years in the United States Army and the National Guard, primarily as a scout and pathfinder with an overseas tour supporting Operation Iraqi Freedom. He's the recipient of a Bronze Star and U.S. Army Combat Infantry badge for his combat experience, and was awarded the Meritorious Service Medal for his distinguished career upon his retirement in 2009. Chas, we owe you a debt. Thank you for that. So as we go through Chas's presentation, I would ask that you put your questions in the chat. If we can answer them as we're going through the presentation, we'll do so. If not, we'll cover those questions at the end of Chas's session. So without any further ado, Chas, welcome.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm slightly embarrassed with that introduction. I will do my absolute best to live up to it here as we go through my presentation. Hopefully everyone now should be able to see my screen. Oh, this is always fun. I will be honest and say Zoom is not our platform of choice. We use Microsoft Teams, so I'm a little at a disadvantage. I just want to make sure you can see the slide and not like my calendar or something else. Can someone give me a quick remark?
You got it. Everything looks fine, Chas.
Thank you so much. Apologize for the delay. A few things about what we're going to talk about today. This presentation truly is about resources that your federal taxpayer dollars have already paid for. They're available at no cost to you. We're going to touch both on physical resources for physical assessments, and we're also going to touch on cyber resources, cybersecurity assessments. If you're familiar with CISA, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which is one of the agencies within the Department of Homeland Security, I will not be offended if you want to jump on to one of the other very worthy breakout sessions. If you're not familiar with these free resources, that all you have to do is raise your hand and ask. Please stick around. Dennis, I appreciate the fact that you're a little sore because you're a Beaver. Our oldest is a senior at OSU. I grew up in Eugene, so went to high school there. So I'm more of a Duck fan, but I'll be honest with you, I like Oregon schools quite a bit. So there's my connection for you. As I kind of briefly just said, I'm from Oregon. Grew up in Eugene. My wife's from Klamath Falls. I've got family all up and down the I-5 corridor. So just moving forward in this conversation, if you guys think of me as some big bad federal employee from Department of Homeland Security out of DC, well, you're going to kind of frankly hurt my feelings a little bit. I'm a local boy. I really consider myself a local boy. Was in Lane County Search and Rescue as a kid. Oregon's my home. This is where my family, we're from the Pacific Northwest. All our kids were born here, even though I traveled all over and did a bunch of other things. My wife wanted to get back to Oregon, back to her family. And, when your wife says that, you do everything you can to find a job in that part of the country. All right, enough about me. CISA. So we were around before 2018, known as National Protection Program Directorate. In 2018, we graduated to a federal agency, and we have folks deployed in the field to help you manage and identify risk at the local level on both physical and cyber vulnerabilities. Really, it's for the most part, as Dennis had mentioned, it could be assessment work, it could be training, it can be exercises, and we're going to dive into a bunch of that here. Few things, there's absolutely no cost for us to work with you. However, we are really busy. We've got large mission space to operate in. I'm the Protective Security Advisor for Oregon. We've got a Cybersecurity Advisor for the state of Oregon, Teresa Massey, and we have a Protective Security Advisor specific to the Portland metro area. He's got the 4 counties plus Hood River, and he comes with a wealth of knowledge and experience as well. His name's Tom Wilder. So we're getting better equipped with folks in the field. If you reach out to us, please understand we will do everything we can to carve out some time for you in our schedule, but it may not be as soon as you would like. We're not going to say no to you. We may just say not right now. And based on your needs, we will try to accommodate as much as possible. All right, let's try to advance the slide. There we go. CISA, as I said, here's our mission and vision statement. We're to help lead the nation in making better informed risk management decisions, understand and manage cyber and physical risk to our nation's critical infrastructure. The more resilient you are, the more prepared you are to absorb some type of blow, whether it's a ransomware attack or some other incident, man-made or natural, the better equipped you are to still maintain your operations and meet mission. We're broken into several components. I'm predominantly going to talk about infrastructure resilience in field operations and proactive cyber protection. We support federal network. If you're a county entity or a city entity, we will pay for the change of your domain to a .gov to help you become more secure on a cybersecurity component. We also support emergency communications, and we've got some natural hazards here in Oregon and the Pacific Northwest that are very concerning in that regards. So just from this brief snapshot, you'll gain a little more appreciation of to all the areas that we work in and support you in the field. You're our stakeholders. You can be private, you can be public. It's immaterial to us. It could be nonprofit, house of worship, high school, college, and just about anything in between. Our focus is partner development and relationship building. That's why it's important for me to say, please don't think of me as somebody from DC. I don't operate that way, much to probably the chagrin of my leadership. Frequently, I will tell them no if it's not in your best interest, and we will work to mitigate and work to find or focus on vulnerabilities that you're concerned with, and then mitigation activities based on our interactions and our support to you. Dennis's example of that TTX is a great one, and frankly, it's one I recently forgot about, which I'm a little embarrassed of, but that's a great example of another aspect where we can be a force multiplier for you. We're non-regulatory. We don't tell you what to do. We don't come in and take over. We really operate as in essence, some no-cost employees with some high subject matter expertise in a lot of areas. We do this every day, and we focus on 16 sectors, and it's really important as a nation for us to understand the vulnerabilities associated with critical infrastructure, because predominantly the federal government, we do not own the critical infrastructure. 85% of critical infrastructure is owned at the local level or by private entities. And without this partnership, as a nation, it's hard for us to really ascertain where the risks really reside, and then what we can do as a nation to help counter and mitigate those risks. Some of the threats to critical infrastructure briefly talked about: acts of terrorism, cyber attacks. Oregon experiences about 4 cyber attacks a month. Average cyber attack costs an entity about $900,000. And that's through the duration of the event, and then post-event for recovery time. So that's a pretty significant dollar amount for a lot of entities. We'll talk more about resources available for cyber. Extreme weather, of course, pandemic, which, wow, here we are, getting ready to break into almost year 2 of this event. And of course, then accidents or technical failures. And a great example of that is one of the most deadly aspects for telecommunications is a backhoe, and what a backhoe can do to our telecommunication network. I talked about our 16 sectors. I'm not going to spend much time on this because I've got a lot of ground to cover, but you can see that there's very little we're not involved with if we're invited. And we bring all of that expertise and then the interaction with other federal partners in our support of your activities. And it's really impressive the work that we can do in cyber and physical aspects to really help as a whole of government approach based on the event, whether it's an incident or whether it's planning for and preparation of a TTX, the multiple entities that we can help bring to help support the activities. Here's a little more specifics on these sectors. You'll see that the DHS CISA is the sector-specific agency for a lot of these sectors, but we work with all the other SSAs across the nation. All right, a little bit about PSAs. As I said, we're deployed in the field. We work state, local, tribal, territorial, and private sector, really to help connect you with all of these resources. We have 5 mission areas: conduct security survey assessments, conduct outreach activities, help with special events. You attend special events in probably your private life and you don't even know it. A parade, a football game, an Oregon or Beaver football game. It could be some other major sporting event, or some other outdoor activity, concert. These are all special events. We help with the planning for the security of these events, not just on the physical side, but we can also support on the cyber side if the entities invite us and request our support. We respond to incidents, ice storm last year, wildland fires, and cyber incidents, and a host of other smaller incidents. We support response to those, help advise state and local entities based on our awareness of the interdependencies, that's cascading failures, what else is affected based on the type of incident. And then we coordinate a whole host of training to include explosive awareness and other risk mitigation training. This is just a little additional details on each one of those. I'm going to jump through these, but if anyone has questions on any of these aspects where we can support you, please feel free to ask. We're spread throughout the nation. As I said, we've got 2 PSAs now in Oregon. That's a pretty large victory for me because for a long time it was just me managing a state of 4.3 million people in about 100,000 square miles. So you can imagine how busy I was. Hometown security starts here, and we're going to provide some aspects on how DHS can help you with hometown security. PSAs conduct assist visits, and this is probably our most frequent activity. We'll come to your facility, we'll conduct a walkthrough with your staff, and we'll provide options for considerations based on vulnerabilities that we've observed. Critical infrastructure, physical security, access control, and this we can do at pretty much any entity. I've done these with Fortune 500 companies down to small nonprofits, food banks. Excuse me. Assist visits typically last about 3 hours, and there's no note-taking or reporting that we provide post the assist visit. All of that's the responsibility of the owner-operator. But you get our subject matter expertise, you get our understanding of area vulnerabilities and area infrastructure, and we apply that to the assist visit. And I can see my slide did not transfer properly. We actually have on a visit that's in between a assist visit and an IST. That's called a SAFE. It's a little more robust version of an assist visit. You do get a report at the end of the assessment that you can then use to leverage mitigation activities. And there's no cost for this, as I said earlier. I've heard some pretty astonishing numbers on what a contractor would charge for some of these activities. So I've heard anywhere in the assist visit $10,000 to $15,000. A SAFE, which, as I said, you do get a report afterwards, could be well over $20,000 to $30,000, depending on the size of the facility. Pardon me. However, our most robust and in-depth assessment tool is the infrastructure survey tool. I'll be honest, when I led DoD assessment teams, I wished I had this methodology for the IST. I wish I had the question set. It is very in-depth. We asked up to 1,500 questions, and the power of the IST, frankly, is not the report, which is an excellent report. It's the methodology and what you receive post the assessment that is really where the power of the IST. A comparable report from a contractor is well over $60,000. And again, that's no cost to you. And sorry, I kind of sound like a salesman here, but I just want to make sure that you understand what's available that your federal taxpayer dollars have already paid for. And you just need to reach out to one of us to ask for these services. I mentioned we cover 16, or can we fit up to 1,500 questions. Here's the data categories. I mentioned the deliverables. Here's what is really powerful. This dashboard. It touches on cyber briefly in the IST. However, you are able to mitigate virtually identified vulnerabilities without spending any capital to help figure out what's the most effective means for return on investment on your limited capital. Each one of these categories you can dive further down into, and you're able to then create courses of actions to determine, as I said, from a protective measure index or resilience measure index, how to spend those limited dollars. There's a scoring matrix that you can play with virtually and develop different scenarios, different courses of actions to present to your leadership on how to help make better informed risk management decisions. We have a very similar tool on the cyber side. No one else offers this interactive dashboard post the assessment. So I'm very proud of this work that we do both on the physical and cyber side, just because frankly it's unmatched. And you're able to seek grant dollars, DHS, nonprofit, or Homeland Security grant dollars. There's several different programs that you can leverage our assessment work to help get grant dollars. And of course, I'm very proud of that. Here's the SAFE tool. I guess I slid it in the wrong spot. That really was supposed to be between the assist visit and the IST. So a little embarrassed about that, but hey, it's in here. We'll move on, turn the page. Again, this is not for just these entities listed here. A SAFE tool is a good middle ground. If you're not comfortable with possibly jumping into a full IST, a SAFE might be a good middle ground, but you don't get that interactive dashboard. So mitigation activities based on options for considerations are just listed out in text within the report. I'm typically going to steer somebody towards an IST because the life of the IST is much longer. It's typically good for about 5 to 7 years, depending on the entity and that interactive dashboard, where the SAFE is probably a little shorter lifespan just because it's strictly just a hardback written report. We also offer an infrastructure visualization platform. Depending on the size of your facility, we can come in and do like a Google Earth map of the interior facility. It's great for event planning, for exercises. It's excellent to share with first responders. Again, depending on the size of your facility. It's a rather expensive product, but it's very, very beneficial, and I've seen it used for a lot of entities other than just sporting events. Hospitals, large county courthouses, and others utilize the IVP. This is probably one of the most important slides in this entire presentation. I'm going to talk about Protected Critical Infrastructure Information Program. In short, your information, when it's in our control, is protected PCII. Not subject to a FOIA request, not subject to disclosure laws, not subject to civil litigations, not subject to regulatory use. For example, if I'm doing a walkthrough, I'm on your site and I see an EPA violation, an OSHA violation, I can't report it to those entities. We're a non-regulatory entity, we're a volunteer entity. You've invited us to come. We'll give you our subject matter expertise. We'll protect your information, whether it's just a site assist visit or a larger assessment. And if you've had any type of incident on site, our interaction with you regarding that incident and vulnerabilities is also protected. This is really powerful. And this applies to private and public entities. It's one of the smartest things that Congress did in 2002 when they updated the Critical Infrastructure Protection Act. They added PCII. So here's entities who can submit information for protection. I'm sure you probably fall into one of these categories. This applies to both physical and cyber work that we do. Allows CISA and other federal security analysts to secure critical infrastructure, protect systems, work on trends, threat streams across vulnerabilities, help with development of further risk assessments, especially if there's a new threat, a new trend. Having PCI and access to that whole of nation approach is really powerful, and it helps with the recovery preparedness measures. You'll see a protection sheet much like this. It's voluntarily submitted. The information should not be customarily found in public domain as in open source. So let's jump through the rest of PCII. And here's some IED training that we can offer, both again on the physical side. And if you have concerns about your facility, no matter how small, it could be a data center, it could be a standalone facility that is hardly protected, reach out to one of us PSAs and we'll help you at a minimum with just a walk around based on how it supports your enterprise, your network. And we can provide some specific IED support. We can even do some blast damage assessment work for your facility. Rather interesting work. Do this a lot with law enforcement and first responders. And again, here's that blast analysis that I talked about that we can prepare. We help with soft target crowded places. Here is aspects for some of that event planning. Spend a lot of time in this, PSAs do, and we also help with active shooter awareness, preparedness, and training. Tom's an excellent active shooter preparedness trainer. He did that for many years in Alaska. I've conducted numerous presentations myself. We've got a couple aspects that we can support your interest in this regards, whether it's an all-day long workshop that you might host and bring some other entities in, or if you're just looking for an hour or an hour and a half training on active shooter preparedness. There's the workshops that I mentioned. We also help with school safety. We provide a K-12 school security guide that we work with school districts and with education service districts in the state of Oregon. Now, I wanted to get through all of that so I could really spend the bulk of my time remaining with cybersecurity resources. There is, and with the physical side, frankly, I barely hit the mountaintops. That presentation is normally about an hour in itself, and I rush through that because I'm trying in this time to really try to explain how DHS can help you, more specifically how CISA can help you with all these resources that I really hope we hear shortly in some of the Q&A or feedback that you weren't aware of this. We've got Cybersecurity Advisor Program. They conduct cybersecurity assessments. They help with response assistance for incident. Let's dive into this. So much like PSAs in the field, there's cybersecurity advisor CSAs in the field. We also have cybersecurity coordinators that are being added at the state level. So CSA will be more like in the Portrait Metro area or possibly other sections of the state, whereas cybersecurity coordinator will work at the state capitol. We should have in short order a couple cyber field personnel in the state of Oregon. Again, we're trying to build that cadre and that team, conduct assessments, promote best practices, build capabilities and relationships, educate, inform awareness, listen to your concerns and your requirements, and then coordinate a whole host of entities in response. Here's our assessments, and I've got slides that will talk about each one of these here shortly. The lead time for some of these assessments, unfortunately, is in some instances rather lengthy. The message I would take or give to you and ask to take away is, if you're interested in any of these, especially to dive into them a little more, please attend Teresa's the cybersecurity presentation in short order. I think that's in the next breakout session. She'll talk about these with far more expertise than I will, but as you listen to these different capabilities, if you have any interest in any of them, sign up now. Some of them, especially the remote penetration testing, that's a technical assessment, takes some time to actually get that completed. Stay in the queue, and if you decide at a later date based on other aspects that you're interacting with us on, you can always move it back or delay it, but don't remove yourself from the queue. And we'll talk more about that particular remote pen test here shortly. You can see that this suite has kind of a aspect of a high strategic view from cyber vulnerabilities and assessments down to a very low tactical level. Here's the CRR. Could be facilitated by a cybersecurity advisor or self-administered. You can go to our webpage, just look for CISA.gov, and you can find the CRR. There's pros and cons, of course, to self-administered. However, based on the needs of your entity and the time frame that you're working within, a self-administered CRR might be a great place to start with a baseline to figure out where are we as an entity compared to what CISA believes we should be focusing on. And it gives an external view at no cost to you other than the time of your staff to conduct this. If you're not comfortable with that, or after you do your own self-administered CRR, then that may be a great opportunity to reach out to a CSA and ask for additional assistance, maybe focusing on a specific aspect of your enterprise network. We have external dependencies management, EDMs. It's, of course, at no cost. We really focus our CSAs on some of these external assessments. And really, we've got also a team of Oregon National Guard that's been trained on a whole host of our assessment tools that are also available in the state of Oregon to help assist with cyber defense operations. And they're a great partner with CISA, especially for some of these more specific assessments. Here's the CIS. This is the cyber version of the IST. Again, you get the interactive dashboard that you can then utilize post the assessment to help plan for mitigation activities and really help with your scoring. You're scored against a like facility, which is also rather important. That's the access to pure performance data that's depicted on the dashboard. It's pretty easy to interact with, and it's a very powerful tool with that resource mitigation planning and road ahead planning. We also have a cyber security evaluation tool. It focuses specifically on access control systems and information technology and network security practices, and it's versed against industry standards. This is another tool that's self-administered, and you can go to CISA.gov to get access to this. I would really recommend, though, start with that CRR. Do that on your own first before you dive into evaluation tool. Excellent benefits really help further that baseline that I mentioned earlier. Phishing campaign. This is fantastic. If you really want to consider an aspect where we're a force multiplier for you, and your staff's not familiar with building a phishing campaign or managing a phishing campaign, this is an excellent aspect where you request a phishing campaign, you tell us the time period of your campaign, maybe your target audience, give us the left and right limits of the phishing campaign. Our team develops the campaign. Someone from your staff has to review the draft email and approve it. You supply the email addresses and then sit back and wait for the results. And as you can imagine, with our experience, we've developed some pretty interesting phishing campaigns. This is not cheap if you hired a contractor to do this. And this is definitely a continuing practice that you should, as we consider advising you as CISA, the nation's risk advisor, to always be training your staff, especially when it comes to phishing, because as you know, this is a very prevalent threat vector that adversaries are using to gain access to your network and your information just by a simple phishing email. Great tool, great resource, very proud to be a part of an organization that can offer this. Validated architecture design review. I'm not as well versed with this as I'd like to be, but it's a in-depth report that looks at that cyber key terrain within your network that I mentioned in the opening remarks to really understand where those center of gravities are within your enterprise network, where some mitigation or vulnerabilities associated with that key terrain can really provide someone to move laterally within your network without your knowledge or awareness. Another great tool aspect of the resources that are available. Vulnerability scanning. This is fantastic, and I'm gonna talk about Leo here for a little bit. When I first met Leo, almost 5 years ago now, one of the first conversations I had with him in the University of Oregon was this vulnerability scan. And in short, it's an external scan of your network that shows open ports. Leo was in the University of Oregon was paying someone else to do this, not trying to take work away from those contractors, but growing up in Eugene and being a part of CISA, I asked him, give us a try, see what you think. You determine the periodicity, how frequently this vulnerability scanning occurs. What I'm seeing prevalently is every 2 weeks, someone is getting a scan of their network. Post that scan, you get a report. Here's an example of what the report card looks like. And what's also included with this report are mitigation steps on how to further lock down and protect your network based on what we're able to see from just an external scan. It's not a remote penetration test. It's an external scan in your network. Again, it's at no cost. This is probably one of the easiest things to sign up for and to receive for us. It's predominantly done via just an email, and then there's an agreement that's signed. Remember, your information is protected by PCI. The report goes directly to your staff, and it's just an excellent tool. There are there's school districts, there's colleges, there's water treatment plants, there's courthouses, there's private entities that are diving into this free service, and it is an excellent tool. Then the remote pen test, and hopefully this is a little self-explanatory, external penetration test. A team will come in, spend several days working on this. It's a very robust assessment. It's not something that's easily accomplished, and that's one of the biggest reasons why there's such a long lead time. For all of these services that I've just talked about, if any of them you're interested in, as I said earlier, I recommend you get into the queue right away, request it. If it's 12 months or 14 months for a pen test, you understand why. Maybe it's longer, but stay in that queue. Do a myriad of some of these other activities, further enhance your network security from a cyber resilience perspective, which will just frankly better prepare you for a remote pen test. And as you get closer to that date, if you're not ready based on your own self-assessments that you've done or work that you've done with a CISA or other entities, you can always ask for the pen test date to be moved to the right, which I think is a great kind of two-phased plan for some of these very robust assessments. The other is a risk and vulnerability assessment. This is one-on-one with from us to you. It's a very long engagement, and it's 1 week at our lab and 1 week on site. And again, these have a long lead time, and it's a very in-depth assessment of your whole enterprise network, and it provides actionable recommendations post the assessment on how to prioritize risk, which is very important. It's scenario-based. It includes pen tests, web application scanning, social engineering, wireless testing, Wi-Fi network, database scanning, and even internal threats. Fantastic tool. This would be extremely expensive if you hired a contractor to do this similar work, probably well over $100,000. We also support response. If you've got a cyber incident, depending on the size and scale of your entity, we do have teams that can support based on their availability. There's a couple entities that had the option to have our threat hunt team come to Oregon, be on site, and to be, again, force multiplier and to assist them in their incident response, cyber incident response, help them with their cyber incident response plan, maybe help regain control of the network, if it's a ransomware incident, help with some of the forensics data collection. We do not take over the incident. You are still in charge. It is still your incident. We are just really there to support and assist. And depending on if there needs to be involvement from the FBI, if it's possibly a foreign adversary, we don't turn things over to the FBI directly. You do that. We just work to support you in all those aspects. So this incident response specific to threat hunt, that's pretty incredible. That team, as you can imagine, those teams, I should say, as you can imagine, they go all over the U.S. at the drop of a hat. They're in high demand. It's better to ask if they're available if you're in an incident and see if they can lend assistance. If your leadership and you so decide, if you have more questions about incident response, please follow up with us afterwards. We have some involvement with the Homeland Security Information Sharing Network. If you're not in HISN, I'd recommend that you consider joining HISN. Vetted people gain access to HISN, so you just can't Google HISN and join. So once you get vetted and approved and gain access, it's an excellent place to collaborate with like-minded people for Homeland Security concerns, both cyber and physical. There's a ton of information that's available within HISN. And here's kind of a quick overview. There's federal partners, state partners, local, chat, mission areas, cybersecurity, defense, emergency management. If you do not have a cyber incident response plan and you don't know where to start and you're staring at a computer screen, you can go to HISN, grab somebody else's plan, start with a 40% solution, update their plan, make it your own, instead of sitting at a computer screen, staring and trying to figure out where to even start. Again, HISN is a great tool, great resource for everyone. If you're not a member of InfraGard, I'd recommend that you work with the FBI and become a member of InfraGard. I'm almost out of time. And of course, if you see something, say something, we always recommend everyone to utilize the S4, and you can become a partner. And this just helps enhance security for everyone. So with that, I'm going to stop here and pause for questions. I've got just about 11 minutes left. I have not looked at the chat yet, so if there's anything in the chat, I will need just a little assistance.
Chas, we've been taking care of the chat and the questions that have come in through the Q&A as well. The one question,
okay, great,
basically was a question about what would you say to entities or insurance carriers direct not to contact CISA or use their services? And I talked a little bit about my experience and about what carriers may deny your claim if indeed you don't follow their regulations. But it's really good to get with your insurance carrier, which I have done, and said, look, here's what we want to do. We want to get this cleared up before there's an incident. So engage early, engage often. Then again, there are many ways to get assistance during a cyber incident. As a matter of fact, at Multnomah County, we've helped several counties out when they've had cyber incidents. I'm a part of the Oregon Cyber Advisory Council, and that's one of our goals, and one of our visions is to provide like a mutual aid type service to smaller organizations that perhaps don't have the resources that we may have available to us.
And Dennis, I'm just curious, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I wonder if you can expand upon that interaction you have with your insurance carrier just a little bit. And because I know that's a very common topic and question that gets asked, and those experiences do vary.
It is. And, quite frankly, I've had conversations with CISOs from around the United States. And there's a growing thought pattern that with the rising cyber insurance, our rates went up 400% last year. And we are one of, we feel like we're in the top top tier of local governments as far as our programs are concerned. And even the auditors from the cyber insurance company said, you guys really, seem to have a really good solid program. But with the rising costs of cyber insurance, we're looking more at becoming self-funded in that respect, because we're on the hook for $1 million right off the bat. But as we all know, a single incident can cost many times $1 million. But still, cyber insurance is one of those things that we have engaged our carrier, and we've said we'd like to do our own incident response, and we'd like to at least be able to take it to a point where we don't feel that we can any longer move the ball forward. And they've agreed in principle to that. So I wouldn't hesitate engaging CISA. Now, there again, availability may be an issue. I don't know what your incident response availability is, Chas. Maybe you could talk to that a little bit. If we're in the heat of the moment, in the heat of the battle, and I call and I say, hey, we need boots on the ground, what typically would you tell me? I'm putting you on the spot.
So here's been yeah, no problem. Here's my experience with that. And this actually happened in Oregon. I won't name the entity, but received a phone call about 8 o'clock at night that they were in the middle of a cyber incident. It was a ransomware attack, very robust and highly defined and persistent ransomware attack. I contacted our watch floor in DC. So now it's after 11 o'clock in DC, and roughly around midnight in DC, the decision was made based on the availability of the cyber response team, the hunt threat team, that they were available and they were willing to travel. We started putting things in motion for them to do that. I continued coordination until about 2 a.m. DC time. They were getting ready to get on a plane at 5 a.m. in the morning. So you can imagine this team pretty much was now up all night. They would have been on the ground in Oregon. I don't remember the exact time, but call it like, I think around 10 a.m. or something like that, 9, 10 a.m. Would have been on site before noon. So that's within 30 hours of the onset of the incident, which that's pretty good for deploying a team of 4 people from DC with all of the equipment that they come with. And then this particular entity's local leadership decided, after talking with their insurance provider, not to seek external support, and insurance provider wanted to handle everything in-house. So we, at about 11:30 at night, 2:30 in the morning, East Coast time, turned everything off and shut the support down. That's not always the case. It really depends on their availability. Depends on how frequently they've gone out and come back. You can imagine they're kind of like a fire crew. They got to have some downtime after being deployed. We're growing the capability of these teams. I think we're up to 12 teams now that can deploy. Maybe it's 14. But it just depends on their availability, number one. So if you're in an incident and you're in the middle of trying to put the fire out, and you are not sure of the extent of this cyber incident, I would reach out to one of us here in the field to at least inquire on the availability of a hunt threat team. The answer may be none are available, they're all deployed. Or the answer may be, yeah, we can start putting wheels in motion to get them on site to support you. Again, I'm really proud to be a part of an organization that has that capability and is willing to do that. I just wish I would have been able to have an opportunity to talk to the leadership and talk to the insurance carriers so that they really truly understand. We don't come in and take over. because that's what the insurance carrier said, is that once we show up, we're going to take over the incident and we're going to tell them, tell the victim how they were going to conduct all of their actions and their response actions. And then unfortunately, that's just not true. I see there's a question in here for school districts. Yeah, all of these services, to include the physical assessments, are available for school districts. We've got some great tools. And if you're not involved with that vulnerability scanning from a school district, please email me, reach out to me, and we will get you connected with the right folks to help you just start with the vulnerability scanning at that level. And I see Leo joined us. Hey, Leo, I just want to ask, I don't know if you were part of the presentation when I was talking about our CISA's vulnerability scanning. Do you have any comments that you'd like to add for the good of the order when it comes to CISA's vulnerability scanning and U of O's thoughts and experiences? He might be working other aspects. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, Charles, I was sort of conference surfing here. So system vulnerability scanning, definitely for me, that's a must. It's one of those things I sort of always say, if there are no vulnerabilities, there cannot be an attack, or cannot be a successful attack anyway. So systems vulnerability scanning is one of those basic things that I think all organizations need to be doing. Charles, I know you probably already touched on the free one that can be done from the federal government side. But if you have the money, I also recommend investing in an internal vulnerability scanning program where you're continuously scanning systems and trying to find vulnerabilities and address them before they're exploited. But yeah, it's one of those things that I put in my fundamental bucket of things that has to be done for a mature cybersecurity program.
Great. Thank you, Dale. I agree. If you can afford it, purchase your own vulnerability scanning. But again, that's something that we can offer, and I think we're going to try to change. Am I still presenting? I thought I turned it off. I apologize, everyone.
Your slides are gone, Chaz. I'm just seeing your handsome face now.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Well, I just want to thank everyone for your time. I am very honored to be a part of this Oregon Cyber Resilience Summit. It's something that Leo and I sat around a conference table a long time ago and really started putting some legs to this idea. And it's grown to something that is pretty fantastic. I hope everyone has a great day and they take a ton of information away from this Cyber Resilience Summit. I know the other speakers are far more in depth in my experience than my experience, although I was an enterprise management network in Afghanistan. The other speakers are far more robust and current when it comes to cyber. I know enough to get in trouble, but thank you everyone for your time and attention. I appreciate it.